Hello, everyone. My name is Pfunzo Sidogi, the chairperson of the Sasol New Signatures art competition, and welcome to another edition of the online information session recording. And I am with my colleague.
Hi, I'm Cate Terblanche, and I'm the curator for Sasol Art Collection, and it's lovely to be with you again.
That's right. So this is the third info session recording of 2024, and we will be doing 4 recordings. 2 recordings are already available. We urge you to have a look at those, where we are really creating an opportunity for potential entrants to get as much information and insight as possible so that you can submit a potential winning entry. Again, I'll reiterate that we've got more recordings from 2023 that are also available, and much of to this year. Obviously, there's difference in terms of the submission dates and so on. But in terms of the principles that we discussed last year, it's still the same. And these info sessions this year is just an add-on on that. So for today, we are going to be focusing on possibly the part of the competition which is not so exciting for both the entrant and us, the judges, the part where artworks are rejected. And so we are going to reflect a little bit on what were some of the pitfalls that caused some of these works to be rejected. So we've kind of titled this, Why Was My Artwork Not Selected? I should just note that the business of judging art is a tricky one. This is an ongoing debate and discourse within the world of art in terms of whether it is possible to even have a criteria to judge, quote unquote, a good artwork versus an artwork that is not so good. So we understand and appreciate that. However, there are certain minimum standards that the competition abides by, and it is our hope in this very short recording that we will uh, inform you of those so that your submission can potentially do as well as it can. So I'm going to kick it off by just reminding everyone that please access the entry form on our website, sasolsignatures.co.za. The entry form is the starting point for ensuring that you adhere to all of the specifications of the competition. There's a lot of information in there, outlines of the weight restrictions, size restrictions, which we are not going to go into that detail, but it is the responsibility of each entrant to just make sure that you familiarize yourself with all of the rules of the competition, and ensure that at a very basic level, your artwork is not selected because you forgot to adhere to a simple rule. And one of those we'll be talking about. Much of the reflection that we are providing today is based on the 2023 regional judging, where we went around the country and we made diligent notes. Here I've got my red book where at each regional judging round we were just making notes of some of the really basic errors that some entrants were making, and it is our hope that in informing you guys about these, it increases your chances of, again, submitting a potentially winning artwork.
I think, Pfunzo, something that's also very important for us to just also mention at this stage in the beginning of the conversation is that artists should not actually see this as if your work is not accepted, it does not mean that you are not a good artist, okay? It just means that maybe there were some of the parts that, some of the guidelines in the, are you up? Sorry, we had a hiccup there with a little bit of power failure. Okay, we're back. Good?
No, good.
Oh,
No. Yeah,
okay.
It's
That's
good.
just from my side. I think it was just a bit hiccup in the power. But
Yeah.
yes, it doesn't mean that you're not a good artist or that your work isn't good. Sometimes there's just a very practical reason why the work wasn't selected. But I also think that it's important for an artist to if your work isn't selected for something, not to be too hard on yourself, but to be critical, and really just go back and say, okay, so if it wasn't, what did I do wrong? What can I do better? How can I improve this? And just take some time out and, just be a little bit introspective and think of, where you're going. So rather see it as a learning experience than something that's, saying that you shouldn't be doing this or that you're not good enough.
Excellent. Yeah, so just approaching it with the right attitude.
Yes,
and
yes.
also understanding that uh, sometimes the work gets selected and then sometimes it doesn't. And that's not a reflection on your abilities or talents, as Kate is noting. It just means that you can actually improve and make a better submission. If you go to our blog on our website, you'll hear the amazing stories of previous winners who submitted an artwork and were rejected, right? So from being rejected to one day winning the competition. And so it is possible that with just these nuggets of advice that we're providing, you can one day also be part of the winner's circle. So Kate, let's kick it off. What were some of the issues that we picked up last year that we would like to highlight?
Yeah. So obviously we have all the, the obvious things such as, you don't fall into the age category, the work isn't the right size, or you haven't had any, you're missing some of the documents, anything like that. So please just make sure that your work has all of those elements.
So
but
that's to kind of to cover, just to emphasize the point you're making, just the basic administrative requirements.
Yes.
So the point that Kate is making is we had a submission in Johannesburg last year, brilliant painting, mixed media work, and we were about to select it for the final judging round. And as a competition, we always do our due diligence to check, is this a South African citizen, ID, all of that stuff. And it was in the process of doing that we found that the entrant was not 18 yet. They were going to turn 18 in 2023, but at the point at which they submitted the work, they were still not 18, not of legal age. So no matter how awesome the artwork is, those are just some of the basic requirements that we cannot relax. So please just ensure that all of those are in place. As Kate is noting, weight restrictions, size restrictions, just have all of the things together. The model release form in instances where you are using someone else's portrait, please just have the basic administrative aspects in place. And humble requirement from the competition's administrator, Nandi Hilliard, please write clearly on your entry forms. We understand that as artists, sometimes our handwriting is as creative as our artworks, but it becomes a bit of a challenge if there are certain letters or numbers, if it's a phone number that we were unable to make out. So please just write as clearly as possible so that we do not misrepresent or maybe I'm able to contact you should your artwork be selected.
Absolutely. So then I think, we can really actually also then maybe talk about maybe two different sort of like categories. First of all, technical proficiency, and I think that's like one of the probably the biggest reason why several of the works weren't selected. So yeah, maybe you can give us a little bit of insight into that.
That's right. So while we understand that the competition is targeted towards emerging artists, right? Artists who are at the start of their creative careers in the visual arts. One of the things that we are really strict on is that whatever medium you choose to tell the amazing story or unique story that you want to tell, you as an artist must ensure that you have a mastery of that medium. the nature of this competition is that even though it's again open for emerging artists, it is actually a professional visual arts platform which will enable entrants to go into the professional visual arts industry. So we cannot have a situation where someone who just started off painting or just discovered painting um, a month ago and say, oh, I want to submit a work. Yes, we definitely encourage you to submit a work, but as far as possible, you need to ensure that whatever medium, process, technique, material that you are utilizing, you show a high level of mastery of that. Yes, not at the level of an artist that has been working for 15, 20 years, 30 years using that very same process, but uh, we do unfortunately receive some submissions where you can see this is someone that is still experimenting with the medium of the process. So that is an absolute non-negotiable. The other one, and maybe Kate, I can hand over to you here, is around presentation.
Yes, yes, yes. So a really big thing, and it's actually such a pity again, because it happens so often, is that, if the works aren't hang ready. So we've done a previous session on what it means to be hang ready. There's some other resources as well. So please just go and have a look at those again and make sure that your work is hang ready. The reason why is actually, if you just think about it, we get about 100 works that we take over to the Pretoria Art Museum. And if we actually have to go and sit and, put screws on and little wires and everything or to hang more than it's going to take us forever. So, this is also just like a practical rule or, for logistics, So please make sure that your work is hang ready. It does not need to be framed. But if you submit it unframed, make sure that it is protected in some way and that it is presented, in a professional way. So again, there are quite a lot of resources on the website that will explain that again. So please just refer to that again. Yes, yes.
Oh yes, without a doubt. And the other point around it being hang ready is the whole point of the competition is to assist artists in selling their work. So
Yes.
so the work must be presented in such a manner that if a client or a patron, a potential buyer walks into that exhibition space, they can just immediately make an offer based on the price that the artist is asking and then take it home without them having to first contact the artist of, hey, come finish this off or come add this. So you almost have to think of it in terms of you are creating a product that has to go out to the market, and when you are submitting it to the competition, you are saying this product is ready to be sold. It is complete, it is done, and therefore a client can come through and purchase the work. And perhaps on that note, we did have a discussion on this previously as well, but please, when it comes to pricing, ensure that the pricing is reasonable. Again, you are emerging artists if you are watching this and are interested in submitting an artwork. So therefore, your pricing also has to be consistent with the stage of your career. Of course, there is no limit in terms of how people value their work. You can value your work in whatever way you feel appropriate. But actually, what is important is, will the price that you are putting on that work actually translate to what's happening in the market, right? Is it consistent with what people are prepared to pay for an artwork of an emerging artist who is still building up their name?
Yes.
So that is important. Perhaps just a final note around presentation and also this kind of technical aspects is we did receive a few submissions last year of unfinished work. So wet paint, for example, it is just unacceptable. We in that instance, we do not even look at the work. Maybe some artists might argue, oh, but that might be part of my concept that it's unfinished and so on. But unfortunately, the part that is difficult there is that if that's part of the concept, then at some point that paint will dry. So what happens to that concept? So let's not try and be inventful when it comes to the stories or excuses that we make for unfinished work. Just submit a finished work. So really that's part of the technical aspects and the non-negotiable size, weight restrictions, presentation. Just make sure that that part of your artwork is complete. And actually, the best way to do that is to finish it well in advance, not a night before, but you finish it well in advance and have it ready maybe a week or two before the submission deadline.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Then the next kind of issues that we also picked up, Cate, is kind of related to the artist statement and how artists title their works, right? So now that the kind of narrative side of the submission. So are there some points that you'd like to make there?
Yes, yes. I think, Pfunzo, this is actually one of those areas where every single year we see sort of the same kind of challenges for the emerging artists. They've got their technical skills, they've got that under control, but having to write about their artwork, there's a lot of artists are still struggling, and that's okay. That's okay. We're not expecting you to be able to give us a perfect artist statement, but you need to be able to tell us what your work is about. You need to tell us what your thinking is. We need to sort of be in your mind. You need to give us a clue to what it is that you want to share with us. And often when we look at the work, and we look at the statement, there's a bit of a, the two don't actually speak to each other. So, and that is unfortunately one of the biggest reasons why many of the artworks aren't actually selected. So, again, we've got quite a couple of resources on the website that you can go and have a look at that can help you with that. But it's also one of those things that you just have to practice. Write it. Do it a couple of times before you submit it. Don't just go the first draft and send that in. Write it over a couple of times, have somebody look at it for you.
There we go. I like that advice. Collaborate with someone else if it's something that you find difficult to do as an artist, where you're just always focusing on the technique, the art making process. If the writing is a challenge, there's no harm in asking someone to assist you with that. Again, it's still you who's kind of articulating what the story and the narrative is, but getting someone who might have more proficiency in writing is there's no harm in that.
And also just to remember that it is a document that presents you in a way, because we look at the document, we don't know who you are, we don't see the names or anything like that. So make sure that it makes a good impression, that we know we sort of know who you are as an artist, your artist voice, and make sure that you've done a little bit of a spell check and everything, because that document is actually representing you. So yeah.
So when it comes to that, the point of the artist statement, and perhaps even before we go to the artist statement, titling your artwork, because that's kind of part and parcel of the narrative. We do understand that there's still a big philosophical debate about whether it's actually necessary to even have, firstly, titles. That's why some artists prefer untitled. And secondly, whether it's necessary to even have an artist statement or a synopsis that explains the artwork, because there's the old adage that the artwork must speak for itself. So we do understand these discourses that are taking place, right? Or these tensions that exist in contemporary art making. But it's something that, as a competition, it's a requirement. So please make sure that you submit an artist statement. It's so unfortunate when we have an instance in last year, there was an instance where there was this phenomenal submission, but there was no artist statement. So we couldn't select the artwork because that's one of the requirements, that there must be an artist statement. And perhaps if the narrative of the artwork or the concept of the artwork is that it doesn't have an artist statement, then submit an artist statement that says this artwork's concept is that there is no artist statement. I don't know, but to not have an artist statement, unfortunately, will disqualify the artwork. Yes. So one request that we would like to have, and it's something that we've picked up in recent years, is, and it's a positive development, but we are just, as the judges and the administrators of the competition, asking humbly that if you do utilize a language other than English to title your work, please just provide a translation. We actually encourage that. Some of the most interesting works are those that are titled in languages other than English. And as a country, we've got multiple official languages. So we relish works like that. But in order for the judges to really understand the meaning and the concept behind your work, we do require some translation. So please provide that. We've got a diversity of judges who speak different languages, multiple languages, but sometimes we find an artist statement in a language that none of the judging panel at the time is able to translate or understand, and it's actually then to the disadvantage of the entrant. So please make sure that your titles that are not in English, any other one, whether even if it's French or a European language or an Asian language, just make sure that you provide a translation in English.
And I think it's a practice that any artist can actually take through to their normal artworks, not just the artworks that they submit to a competition, but any artwork. If you are giving it a title in a different language, just remember that your viewers might be anywhere in the world, speaking any of how many different languages we have all over the world. And the title is often the key to understanding a lot about the artwork. So make sure that you empower the viewer to be able to understand that,
that is true.
Unless you don't want them to.
If that's part of the concept. But I like that you brought it up. Then add it in the artist statement, right? That part of the concept is that this work must be read in this language, and if people do not understand, that's part of the thinking or that the artist is going through. Just clarify whatever. Do not take it for granted that as the judges and the coordinators and the organizers of the competition, that we will understand what your aim is or was in creating that work. So it's really important to give us that insight as much as possible.
I think when in doubt, explain.
That's true. Then another point that I would just like to make this, I think there's two final points, Cate. I'll make the one and then you can do the other. In instances, so the competition does provide an opportunity for you to submit 2 artworks. So in instances where you're submitting 2 artworks and those artworks are very different from each other, then please submit 2 different artist statements. We've had instances in the past where there are 2 artworks which are clearly not the same, but then the artist only submits 1 artist statement. And then it becomes confusing as to which artwork does this artist statement speak to. So not unless those 2 artworks are kind of maybe a part of a body of work, and then the 1 artist statement suffices, that's okay. But if it's 2 separate works, please make sure then that you submit 2 separate artist statements. That is really, really important, because again, you disadvantage yourself if we as the coordinators are not able to make out for which artwork is this artist statement relevant for, and that happened quite a lot last year. So that is important. And then the other point that Cate, I wanted you to perhaps just touch on is around instructions for artworks that require the judges to do something or to open something or to da.
Yes. Oh, we had a couple of instances, unfortunately, last year where we were supposed to either interact with a painting, or via an app, or a QR code or something like that. So and there weren't any instructions for us, so we didn't know that we had to do that. So don't just rely on your artist statement to say that. You actually have to put, because remember, this is also what's going to happen to your work when it's in a gallery. You have to put that next to the work, the QR code, or the how to get the app, the instructions or whatever, has to be, it doesn't have to be fancy or anything like that. It can just be nicely printed on an A4 or a A5 or something, and just placed next to the work. Okay, just so that we know that, okay, we have to do this, we have to engage with it, because it's just so sad if we don't
we're
know.
unsure how to interact with the artwork, and what happens is only when the artwork is, because we do have feedback sessions immediately after the regional judging, and then the artists come in and we just give a general kind of feedback of how things went, and then the artist we do have some interactions with the artist there, and then the artist comes through and says, oh, did you open this, or did you do that? We say, no, we didn't, because we did not know, and then only to discover that the work is so fascinating and so compelling when all of that, when we interact with it in that way. So yes, please, if there's a particular way that you want the viewer to engage with the work, do not take it for granted that we know what to do. Provide clear instructions, as Cate has noted, so that we can experience what it is that you want us to experience. And this, of course, speaks to the interface between technology and art. And in our first info session, which you can go back and have a look at, we did talk about the integration of, for example, AI, that yes, this is encouraged. This is part and parcel of the long-standing relationship between art and technology. However, again, is how does it serve your artwork, and how do you make the viewer understand how they're supposed to interact with those new age technologies?
Yeah. Even if you don't have technology, even if it's just an interactive piece where you actually have to get into, we had one work that you actually had to get into
that's
into
right,
the work and everything, but there were no instructions. So yes, so just put something next to it, and yes.
Well, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So in concluding this this info session, I think I once again just have to emphasize the importance of you as an artist being aware of all of the expectations of the competition. So please go to that entry form, read it through thoroughly, look at the other info session videos, the previous one where we talked about images and copyright issues, just those basic expectations. It's always heart-wrenching for us when an artwork has to be rejected just because the artist did not follow all of that. And perhaps what I should just emphasize in closing is this myth that the competition has a theme. Each year we've got a theme, right?
Yes.
And so this year there is a communications campaign, a slogan of articulate, but that's not the theme. As a competition, we invite artists to submit whatever narratives and stories that inspire you and inspire your art making. There is no theme that we are looking for. And this is something that we get year in, year out, where artists said, oh, but you guys said go beyond imagination. So I'm going, this is, no, it's just, that's just a communications campaign that the competition uses to really brand this project. So your story, it's about your story. Let that story come through in your own unique way, because that's what actually will set you apart from what other artists are submitting, and that will actually give you the greatest possible chance of not only being selected, but potentially getting the overall winning prize.
And that's what we want. That's what we're looking for.
That's right. That's what we want for all of you.
Yes.
So once again, thank you for joining us for this session. We wish you all the best as you prepare for your submission. We're looking forward to receiving those submissions. Again, let me just reiterate, we've got 8 collection points around the country in 7 of the 9 provinces. Look out for the details of that. Go out on the 4th and the 5th of June, submit your work, and we will be there to have a look, and hopefully you will be one of the next new signatures. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye.